Faccio parola a Lucrezia, è una giornata di
Bene, io parlerò un po' al microfono, un po' no, vediamo come va. Allora, buongiorno a tutti e tutte, benvenuti e benvenute a questo talk Resistance Strategies. Presento i nostri ospiti, Duyvendak, Roberta Alberico, Gabriela Carneiro da Cunha, Igor Shugaleev. Le ci darà una mano con la lingua. Bene. Allora, diciamo il tema di questo... Mi sentite così?
Meglio se lo prendi in mano.
Va bene. Ok. Allora, sì, il tema generale di questo talk, diciamo, è come le arti possono supportare i processi di resistenza. Chiaramente, diciamo, il grande tema sottostante è quello del rapporto tra le arti e la politica, un tema molto grande, complesso e non privo di contraddizioni anche, però in qualche modo indispensabile, secondo me, se non siamo chiaramente solamente interessati o interessate a un'industria dell'intrattenimento, insomma, intesa come opera artistica. È un tema peraltro iscritto veramente nel DNA di questo festival, perché come sappiamo Santarcangelo nasce nel 71, in un momento di fermento sociale fortissimo. Adesso, per chi c'era, sicuramente non io, forse nessuno di voi, non lo so, ma per chi c'era o per chi ha visto le immagini, insomma, della prima edizione del festival, sa che era veramente difficile distinguere dove finiva l'intervento artistico e dove iniziava la manifestazione di piazza, insomma. Sono passati tanti anni, molte cose sono cambiate naturalmente nel contesto sociale e nella produzione artistica, però Santarcangelo ha mantenuto una sensibilità verso queste appunto pratiche artistiche che sollevano delle questioni sostanzialmente su una società percepita come oppressiva, omologante, e in questi ultimi anni in particolare si è interrogato sul tema dell'identità di genere, del rapporto tra i sessi e anche del pianeta, della distruzione del pianeta e di strategie appunto per provare a fare qualcosa, diciamo così. Adesso insomma voglio lasciare la parola ai nostri ospiti, inizierò con una domanda molto generale. I will start with a general question. Why you have chosen art and performance in particular to convey a message of liberation? So I think we can begin by you, and then if you want, if you
No.
Okay.
Why have I chosen art to deliver a message of liberty?
Yeah.
I don't know if I chose art to deliver a message of liberty, and I don't know if I chose art. I come from visual art, and I started to work with people and realized that it was much more interesting to work with people on a live form, like in live art, because there is more things happening in collaboration, and then we can talk together about subjects that are important in society. So I think I tried to put people together in situations where we can indeed think and talk and be active about a social issue, which is important, and to share it in this way. So for me, it was like naturally that I went into not really theater, but live art to do this, because it's this place where people meet and can really discuss and elaborate things together in a certain way.
Personalmente ci sono arrivata per caso, cioè in questo contesto qua, ma a me quello che piace in particolar modo è il fatto che cioè, ho parecchie attività politiche militanti e l'arte rimane un posto dove non c'è bisogno per forza solo di parlare in modo manifesto, cioè di leggere manifesti univoci, dove hai bisogno di farlo in piazza, cioè quando vai nello spazio pubblico. Invece nell'arte si può lasciare uno spazio di dibattito politico un po' più aperto. Quindi creare una specie di spazio anche di politicizzazione, cioè l'italiano non è la mia lingua di base. E poi anche perché, cioè le living arts in particular, perché veniamo dalla Svizzera e ci sono anche risorse in questo contesto da poter sfruttare in modo anche politico, quindi risorse economiche, visto che i budget che sono utilizzabili per un progetto artistico sono abbastanza grandi, quindi come ridistribuire le risorse materiali con un punto di vista magari proprio materialista di ok, ci sono i soldi e dove li mettiamo? Io non sono di mestiere, non ne vivo, quindi ho la possibilità di usare questi soldi in un altro modo, anche risorse di diffusione, di visibilità. Cioè.
Hi, everyone. So, yes, I think pretty much like Ian, I wouldn't put that way. I wouldn't put that I chose art to deliver any kind of message. It was already the practice that I were doing. So I come from theater and basically as an actress, and after I begin to work in Amazonia and with rivers, and then it kind of in the relationship in this research that is going on for 8 years now, it was something that happened to become also the director of it, or it was something that it was the creation process that asked for that. So it's not like a choice that I made before I was already doing it. And I don't really see art as a way of delivering messages. I see more as a way of articulating language, and that for me it's a way of resistant and resisting and doing politics and cosmopolitics. It's for me it's a good territory to act on changing the abilities of seeing and listening and dreaming and being together and creating communities and thinking not only with your brain, but letting thought habitate your body. So it's this. I was already in this field, in this practice, and I think when this came together with Amazonia and practice there, it became even more radical and more expanded in some way. So this is what I have to offer in this moment that we are here alive. That is what I have to offer, and that's the field where I am working in.
Здравствуйте, простите, я буду говорить по-русски, и Мартина мне будет помогать. Этот перформанс, который я показываю здесь на фестивале, это моя первая политическая работа, потому что я пережил глубокое переживание революции в Беларуси. Можем так по частям.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. The performance that I have showed and will be showing this night at the festival is my first true political work, because I lived and survived political revolutions in Belarus.
И до этого, так есть, что в Беларуси искусство очень цензурировано, и оно либо является частью пропаганды, либо... Нет, даже 3 вида, как мне кажется. Либо часть пропаганды, либо часть такого независимого андеграунда, либо протестное искусство. И на данный момент на территории Беларуси осталась только часть, которая занимается пропагандой режима.
In Belarus, art is very subjected to censure, and I believe that it can be displayed in three ways. Either it is part of propaganda, or part of underground secret works, or part of protests. And at this moment in time, only the part that works for propaganda is still living in Belarus.
Да, вот, например, сейчас готовится очень классный фестиваль такого независимого классного искусства, но там сейчас не могут собрать программу, потому что все либо сидят, либо в эмиграции.
For example, in this moment, a festival is being organized of independent art, but it is almost impossible to create the program because every independent artist has either emigrated or is being detained.
Да, и поэтому я как часть этой культуры, я представляю, что я, как бы человек, который спасся из горящего дома, но я не могу как бы заниматься своей жизнью и не пытаться погасить этот горящий дом. Понимаешь метафору?
Нет.
Окей. Я имею в виду, что как бы Беларусь, для меня в моем представлении, это как горящий дом, из которого я спасся, и я не могу как бы пойти дальше и жить свою жизнь. Мне хочется помочь потушить этот костер.
As I see it as a participant in this culture, Belarus in this moment is like a house on fire, and I cannot escape from this house and forget about everything that is inside it. I still think about everyone who stayed in Belarus.
И, я, например, не понимаю белорусских артистов, которые, если занимаются современным искусством, как бы непонятно вообще, как современное искусство, если ты белорусский артист, как это не может касаться политики. Это должно быть, как бы, как я вижу, только политическое высказывание.
I personally cannot understand how Belarusian artists in this moment can do contemporary art and not get involved with politics, because I believe that in Belarus in this moment, art is intrinsically linked with politics.
И вообще, в общем и целом, мир за последние 3 года так изменился, что невозможно чувствовать себя частью, в общем, как-то, как я вижу, необходимо расширять сознание своей принадлежности, идентичности не к этносу, не к народу, не к белорусам, а вообще принадлежности к миру, что я часть не Беларуси, я часть не Европы, я часть всего целого мира.
И это невозможно делать?
И наоборот, я смотрю в эту сторону, чтобы...
Да, конечно.
Это очень важно.
The world has changed significantly in the past 3 years, and I feel, I believe that it is impossible not to feel oneself not only part, for example, of Belarus or Europe, but part of the whole world.
Allora, grazie per le risposte. Prima di continuare con la discussione, riassumo brevemente, i temi e le lotte che emergono dai loro lavori per chi non li avesse visti. Quello di Igor penso si sia capito abbastanza bene, comunque è un atto per sensibilizzare in merito alla situazione in Bielorussia, alla repressione del regime e della polizia in particolare. Gabriela invece ha lanciato, un grido collettivo contro la diga di Belomonte che sta devastando la biodiversità e la vita degli indigeni nell'area di Altamira in Brasile, mentre Roberta e Jan raccolgono testimonianze di individualità resistenti in vari punti dell'Europa, ogni volta con un rapporto diverso con il territorio, per appunto generare degli spunti di resistenza nel presente. Questo insomma per chi ancora non avesse avuto modo, così sappiamo meglio di cosa parliamo. What I would like to ask you now is something that I ask myself first. I have the impression that when the there is something really political in a play, in a work, somehow the concept of play falls apart, and it's something that we can see in your works too. I'll make just one example, but I think that it concerns all of you. For example, Gabriela yesterday didn't show up to take the applauses at the end of her play, and I think it was really something right in that context, because the moment of gratification of an actor, of an actress, really seems out of place somehow when you have a collective shout against something that really comes before the artistic tradition, let's say. So I would like to ask you, do you have the impression of this shift, that the things that you say, that you do, force the form, the concept and the form of the play?
Yeah, I have my feeling is that depending on with who you are working, with what you are working, and with what you are relating to, it will change the form of what you do. So that's what I mean when I say about language. For me, that was the shift. Was when I say, and there is this in the play. For me, it was not about theatralizing the Amazonia, but Amazonizing theater. So this it's a concept that I follow to create this, and not coming to receive the applause. It's really because at a certain moment, it's something that we do together. Of course, I'm there, I'm conducting it, but it's something that we do together. And this is the very end, but the work was done in a way of shifting since the beginning. So having the public sitting on the floor, and just an important thing to say, this whole research project thing that I do, it's also an artistic response to this thing that we have been called the Anthropocene. So for me, one of the important things is if I am working on this Anthropocene, I also could not be the center of the work, because then it would be the same language, and I would just treat the Anthropocene or the River Xingu or Belo Monte as a subject, and that's not what interested me. I don't think art is or I don't think life or relationship or the work in art, it's about approaching things as a subject, it's about approaching things as a language. So the things will also change the theater that you do. So from the very beginning, the performance has a really low light, and the sound begins really low as well. And this is so our bodies can respond to that. So your pupils will open a little bit, your ears will open a little bit. Then I need the people, I walk around people, they have to move, as in Kato's work also, they have to move. And this is like building a relationship, because at the very end, I will need them to engage quite a lot. But not only with me, but with the Xingu and with everything they have heard and seen. So for me is this. I mean, I think the possibility of changing the form, it's always there. And this is political also. It's not the subject that you're dealing, but being as an artist open to change and to learn another language and to create something with whatever you are working with. In my case, is the rivers and this dam and this hydroelectric. So yes, the territory and the river taught me something. And the first thing they taught me was that I didn't have the language to listen to them. So I had to learn another language. And at the very beginning, I didn't like to call it theater. But now, as it is, I like to, because I like to think that theater is also that, because theater is, well, it can be so many things. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Если я правильно понял вопрос, когда мы начинали нашу работу, мы не понимали, какой формой может стать рассказ о насилии в Беларуси. И мы поняли, что перформанс самый живой, самый, один из самых таких жанров прямого диалога со зрителем и самый открытый жанр в искусстве. Поэтому мы выбрали именно перформанс.
Спасибо. When we started working on our performance, we didn't know what form we wanted it to take, because we didn't know what form to tell the story of violence in Belarus. So we later understood that we had to create a performance because it is the best genre to speak directly with the public, with the spectators, and it is one of the most open forms of art.
И немножечко добавлю, для нас было очень важно избежать, отказаться от какой-то метафоричности, отказаться от метафоричности и быть максимально понятыми. И, пожалуй, все.
And we believed it very important for us to avoid any kind of metaphors and be as understandable as possible.
Penso che ci siano un sacco, anche rispetto a cosa ha detto Gabriela e Igor, vari modi per pensare la relazione tra contenuto di resistenza e contenuto politico e forma artistica. E non penso che ci sia, secondo me non c'è un modo più giusto di un altro di creare queste relazioni qua. Poi per il progetto che abbiamo montato qui, che abbiamo fatto vedere qui, noi abbiamo pensato, si è passato da molte fasi, ma per noi, siccome non si tratta di ascoltare noi, ma di ascoltare tutte le voci che sono rappresentate in questa raccolta di testi, tipo nel libro svizzero francofono ce ne sono una 60, siccome si tratta di ascoltare loro, ovviamente noi ci siamo completamente invisibilizzati solo spiegando qualche regola del momento di ascolto. Quindi è un momento proprio solamente collettivo di ascolto che è quasi impossibile di avere in altri posti, perché sono voci che tali e quali, senza essere mediatizzati da, che ne so, i media, oppure non sono discorsi riportati, sono discorsi che vengono dal basso tale e quali, con le parole che vengono dal basso, con i punti di vista che vengono dal basso. Quindi quella cosa là per noi era importante, che ogni persona possa avere un contatto fisico molto stretto con queste voci, per quello che è anche il pubblico che li legge, senza obbligazione di partecipazione, ovviamente con molta accoglienza, quello che possiamo fare, ed è il pubblico che se le riappropria, che parla anche alla prima persona del singolare ed esperienze forti, a volte con punti di vista politici molto radicali. E questo contatto qua che passa dalla voce e dal corpo permette forse anche di avere una relazione con il contenuto politico diverso da uno spettacolo frontale.
Yeah, I could just add that indeed, I think each project, if we look for a specific, if there is a subject, then if we stay coherent, the form changes because it is influenced by the subject. if you stay like rigid on a specific form that would be your artistic identity, I mean, then it's you. I mean, I would feel very bored. So I think it's interesting always to look how you can adapt the forms to what you are dealing with. And in this case, with Nous sommes partout, siamo ovunque, it is interesting to go as far as saying, since most of these voices, like you said, that are coming from the bases that are not heard by the dominant media, it also made us have a reflection about the signature. We don't sign the work as us because it's just we are anonymized. We don't sign it. It's not included in that sense in the reputational economy. It's if people come to see it, they come to see it because they think the work is interesting, not because they think the name of the artist is interesting. And that is like a coherent choice of the subject that we're dealing with, where there are people who cannot use their name because they're legally committed with what they say. So it's like it is this form that is influenced until the very end by the subject.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sure that you have a strong urgency of expression. I mean, that you do what you're doing because you need to. At least that's what I feel about my work. I mean, I try to put something in my work that is important for me, and I think it is the same for you. But maybe you have also a wish for an effect. I mean, what would you like that could be the effect of your performances? Could they, in some way, enter or have a coincidence with a political struggle or with an effect on individual persons? I mean, what do you wish that would happen after people see your performances?
You start.
Окей. Наверное, две вещи я скажу. Ну, первое, это был вопрос к себе. Я рассказываю про свой опыт, про свою проблему и чего же я хочу от тех людей, кому я рассказываю. И очень много людей сейчас нуждается в помощи, белорусы, белорусские, украинцы, украинки. И для этого мы заложили счет, куда можно задонатить, ну, потому что часто человек, находясь как зритель на перформансе, он испытывает эмпатию, ему, возможно, хочется помочь. И это как часть, куда можно вылить эту энергию.
I will, well, for starters, this was a very important question for me, for myself. Because I am talking in my performance of my personal experience, of my problems, but what I want to share, but I also problems that I share with other people who are in difficult situations, namely Belarusians and Ukrainians. And I speak with people who maybe will want to help these citizens. So we created a link. We shared this link in our performance for anyone who wishes to donate to Ukrainians and Belarusians, because often spectators at these performances feel empathy, maybe, and maybe even wish to help. So it's our way to channel these desires into something concrete.
И вторая вещь, которую я хочу сказать, это абсолютно разные вещи, если, скажем так, белоруска или белорус борется за права белорусок и белорусов. И совершенно другое дело, когда, например, итальянки и итальянцы борются за права белорусок и белорусов. И в том числе для этого я сделал перформанс и как бы хотел бы, чтобы это был такой от этого эффект. Okay, I will try speaking. Okay. Um, as I see, it's two different things. If Belarusian people fight for the rights Belarusian people, and another one, if, for example, Italian people fighting for Ukrainian, for Belarusian people. Yeah, and it's another one important things in my work. Yeah. Wow.
Um, so I think the first, let's say, like goal or that I want when I do this work, it's really that the dam it's broken. And for me, for those who haven't seen it, maybe I will give a spoiler, but it doesn't matter because it's not about this. But at the very end, we are all together doing something, or for those who wish to be doing. And then there is an image of the dam being broken, and the river is flowing again. It is a science fiction, very bad image, but it serves to us. Um, and the proposition of the performance is that this will happen in 2042. And for me, it can happen earlier. I would like it to happen earlier, maybe tomorrow, maybe tonight when we are performing it. But it's not a symbolical thing. I'm not doing a symbolical thing. I'm really like, for me, this performance is, it's obviously a performance. It starts like this, but it can also be other things. It can also be a ritual. It can also be a manifesto. It can also be a community. It can become lots of things. So when we are doing it, for me, we are opening a crack in this dam, in this hydroelectric, a small crack. And I like the idea that we can be here together, so distant, but at the same time, we can be together doing something in the intention of those who are in the Xingu and in the intention of the river herself, of the waters of the river who are there and who are strong enough to break that dam. So I do like to think in a work of art in that sense, in a sense that you can open in the imaginary and in the gesture that you are making together with people a possibility in reality. And I think it's there, it's in the work. It's already in the work. Whatever comes like side activities, it's welcome, but I think it's already in the work. So that's for me, it's the main thing. The other thing is that obviously I would like that people with that are together with me in this performance, they could not only think about what's happening in Amazonia, but what's thinking here and what's thinking in their own bodies. Why have we, I will say we, but why we have stopped listening to any other that is not ourselves? Why we can only listen in a specific language? And I like to say that for me, this work is not, sometimes people say, oh, it's so important, you're giving voice to this and this and that. And I don't see it that way. I don't see I'm giving voice to anyone. I'm not giving voice to Raimunda Gomes da Silva, who is the riverine woman that I work with. I'm not giving voice to the Xingu or to the spirits of the waters or to Erundina or to the animals there. They all have voices. They are all shouting and screaming for so long, and they are all articulating very sophisticated knowledge and things. They have all propositions to contemporary problems, but they are not being heard. So I think my role here is to give ears to those who have lost the ability of listening. This really ancient technology that we all have, but very sophisticated also. So I think that's the way I see this work, creating this space. And there is so many things that happens just like almost to clean this before we listen. So yes, maybe this that we reactivate this technology.
I think what I try to convey with work we do, or what I like to put in place, is devices where subjects are being treated and it's being addressed to a specific milieu, us, the artistical milieu, which has a tendency, I think, of stay quite among each other. So for me, this was for a long time really a problem. What do we do with the fact that I have the impression that we talk a lot among ourselves? So for me, then it was the idea of, okay, how can we actually open this up and work with ourselves as a mean of sharing or transmitting information, or sharing or transmitting actions, and open it up. So basically with Nous sommes partout, the idea is above all to have these texts that we gather among the activists that are then locally inscribed in a specific territory, and that talk about current activities, struggles, that these texts are being shared on database, and that this database is usable by for a convergence of struggles. So it can be, it's really communicated to in the milieus where people are struggling, where there are fights, and they can use the tools and tips that are in the text of, for example, how to film cops when they mistreat people in the street, how to film it so that films can be used in legal, in juridical cases, things like that. How can this be shared by people around in different places? How can these tools be shared? How can also testimonies of why people take the courage to become activists or to become resisting to a form of oppression, how can those testimonies help other people? So to have this shared above all by the activists themselves on this level of the database. So there you can download all the texts. You can download it for free. It's a common. So it can be used by them. And the idea is to actually, the money that we receive from the cultural institutions to do the collective readings as we do them here is used to pay new texts. So it's to actually have us as a milieu help these texts to be able to circulate, and to these tools to exist, to make this kind of toolbox that we can share. So it's a give and take, because on the other hand, the activists, they know that we are doing that the money that they get comes from institutions, from cultural institutions, and that in exchange they give their texts also for collective readings by people who are not necessarily agreeing with what they say or think or are doing or convey, and even might not be themselves in the specific ethnic or sexual or gender condition that the people who wrote this in, but that they agree that it's being read by other people. So it's a kind of exchange, really. It's a troc. So yeah, I think that would be my answer to your question.
Okay. Sorry, you want to say something? No, please.
No, era
You sure? Okay. So Jan already answered to the next question, I think. That is, what's your approach towards the productive system of theater? Because we know that institutions can make good things, like to fund a theatrical play, but they can do also bad things, like sometimes they're very involved in the things that are criticized in the plays we're talking about. So I wanted to ask you, what's your attitudes towards the institutions, the funding, the production?
Well, I'm not sure if I understood, like financially, like who funds us, something like that. We'll get rid of him, and by the end of the year, we don't even have a cultural ministry anymore. So actually, we don't really have the means, the policies, the structures, the institutions that I am now realizing that there is here. It's completely different in Brazil, in South America, or in the global South. In Lula and Dilma government, we did have some public policies and investments, but it's again completely different. So yeah, I mean, to create Altamira, it was like a fund, I don't know, 10,000 euros, something like that, just to do a research that was to one person, but 5 people were working, and so we make it, it's really, I don't know, we find a way of doing it, and we do it, like the producing, the cultural producing cinema theater in Brazil is huge, and it's amazing, and there's beautiful artists that live in a daily basis fight. Now traveling to Europe, we have, of course, the fee of festivals and everything, and this pays a lot of people. So it's one person on stage, and it's a small group, 4 people, but there is like a machine behind this. There's lots of people, including all the people that you listen in the performance. They're all being paid for that. It wouldn't make any sense if it were different than that. So is this also, when you ask me about the goals of being here, also there is something really pragmatical about like one tour in Europe makes me live 1 year in Brazil, and not only me, but all the creators and all the people that you are listening in the work. So there is this really basic relationship also, and I think it's an important one. It's a basic and very important that we think when we are doing works like that, that all this should be thought and reflected in your budget, like in your production design, in the way you produce, in the way you go to places, in the way you relate in this long-term relationship. Like, I think people in Amazonia and in other places, they are very much used to artists coming, taking whatever they want to take, and then never coming back. They will never see the work. They will never know what's happening, and this is something that we took good care not to do. And I don't think people are more accepting that anymore. Also. So is this project, the Riverbanks project, is something that is a long-term thing. So the relationship with Raimundo, with João, or with Altamira, it goes, and it's up also to me, and also my responsibility to think about how deep in this. So now we have a network there also between women, rivers, and art, and it's all kind of women, not only artist women. But I understand that when we are together, when we encounter, we can all become artists and we can create art together. And this is not only good in a way about how sometimes we think almost as philanthropy institutions, like it's good for them. It's not only good for them, but it's good for us. It makes me a better artist and all the other artists that are working there. So I think it's, yeah, for me, it's really building a strong relationship and thinking in all the aspects of it with responsibility. And yeah, I mean, I work in Brazil with other things, with films, and sometimes I am supported by, well, institutions that I don't know, the bank institution that is the nice part of the bank that will fund culture. And well, I could not say, I don't have the place to say no to that, considering that I don't have any kind of public funds. But at the same time, there is a man that I love very much in Brazil, José Celso Martinez Correia, who is a great director in his 80s. For me, he's like a master. And he says that he doesn't have any kind of problem with that, because for him, all the money are dirty. So he just says, yeah, if you don't want to take it, I'll take it, give to me, and I know what to do with it. It's a way of thinking. And I think if you live in Brazil and if you are José Celso Martinez Correia, a brilliant man who should, for me, it's one of the most brilliant directors. He should be in all the festivals in the world, and he's not. And he struggles so much to keep his company, which is a historical company, Teatro Oficina in Brazil, that lives for 50 years doing the most amazing work. I think he's right. He has to take this money and do what he knows how to do, and only him can do, and almost do work of changing the thing in that money. And because otherwise we would just, I don't know, go to football or to, I don't know, whatever. I love football, but it's a lot to football. So I don't know. I don't believe in any kind of life there is no contradiction. I think we have to deal with that. And by that, I don't mean that we have to accept everything. We have to have limits. For instance, I wouldn't get money from a mining company in Brazil that supports arts a lot, because it doesn't make sense. I don't think the bank it's better than the mining company. Actually, the money of the mining company is from the banks. Actually, it's our money that is there, and the banks decide what to do with that. So it's important to know where your money is. So is this, I mean, discussing art in this world is also discussing politics and economical and the financial world, and all this structure that is built upon that. So I don't think we can be naive or too much accusators, because we have to understand where we are about to talk about others' choices.
I don't know if you, Igor, want to say no. Okay. And if you want to add something about it, or
well, it's interesting because I am in this situation where I'm Dutch living in Switzerland. It's really like I'm in the bank of the banking world. So it's a reason more even to really think about what we do with the money that we get, because we get a lot of money from public institutions. So basically it means that it's money from taxpayers. So that's also for me a reason why I think we cannot, as artists, as the group of people that we are that work in my company, we cannot consider that we talk about things that are not interesting or necessary for people who are the taxpayers, because it's their money and therefore it's their subjects. I think there I have a responsibility. And then also we can really think about what do we do ourselves in a certain sense to work in a restorative way with this money, so that we work in a way of working together that is healing in a certain sense, where we really work on non-harassment forms, on really cooperative, collective intelligence works, that we really work on that. And indeed, like I said before, how do we spend the money so that it's not only serving us to survive because we need to eat, but that it also helps others in other levels. Or helps is not a word that I like, that it is producive or constructive for people that can use it in other ways.
Roberta, you're okay. All right. Now, I would like to ask you something about the different forms of censorship that you can experience. I mean, you come from very different situation, obviously, so it cannot be the same kind of censorship. But I would like to talk about what if you feel to have a kind of explicit or not explicit censorship sometime in the situations where you try to bring your show, or where you cannot bring it, for example. And then I would like to Tomac also to say something about it, because he really experienced censorship in his work life in Poland. Obviously something that is very linked to the political situation of every country, but I would like you to say something about it.
No?
Поможешь мне, Мартина? Да. Как я вижу, мне вообще, просто все познается в сравнении, и я, живу сейчас в Польше, и для меня это просто страна возможностей, страна свободы. Находясь здесь, я пока не сталкивался с преградами в артистической деятельности. Меня никто никак не цензурировал, но я понимаю, за счет чего это мое ощущение. За счет того, что, например, то, что я делаю, если я вернусь домой, то я могу сесть в тюрьму там более чем на 5 лет. И поэтому все, что происходит здесь, для меня кажется невероятной свободой.
Well, I will talk from my personal point of view, and I believe you you will all understand the differences. But right now, I live in Poland, and for me, Poland is a land of freedom, a land of possibility. And there, I do not experience any kind of limitation on my artistic work. Nobody tries to put any censorship on my work. But if what I do right now in Poland, if I were to go back to my home country, I would probably go to jail for at least 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Penso che le situazioni tra di noi sono super mega diverse. Quindi io parlo prima, perché già noi abbiamo, siccome c'è una parte del progetto in Francia, una parte del progetto in Svizzera, una parte del progetto in Italia, e già all'interno dell'Europa centrale comunque ci sono situazioni diverse, cose che stiamo vedendo mano a mano che si avanza, ed è abbastanza interessante. Ma in Svizzera personalmente non sento nessuna censura all'interno di una black box, all'interno di una struttura culturale. Anzi, ovviamente tutto quello, l'arte contemporanea trash, anche politicamente, è sempre recuperabile in modi molto diversi, e si vede anche con chi finanzia. Forse nelle arti visuali è ancora più palese il fatto che la Benetton, che distrugge determinati popoli in determinati posti, riesca a costruire per esempio musei artistici che si dedicano eccetera eccetera eccetera. Quindi queste contraddizioni sono digeribili per tutte strutture, secondo me, capitaliste europee, soprattutto in Europa centrale. Poi lì dove c'è censura, poi non so se si deve chiamare così, non lo so, ma lì dove c'è censura è quando qualcosa inizia ad essere reale, nel senso che inizia a uscire da una zona delimitata nella quale puoi dire quello che ti pare. Poi non è una cosa, non sto dicendo qualcosa di sciocco così, ma ieri c'è stato un esempio, non volevo adesso parlarne, però trovo che è interessante, no? Ieri siamo arrivati in piazza per fare questa lettura e ci siamo detti, ma vicino alla statua che ci sta nella piazza sarebbe interessante fare la lettura piuttosto lì e usare i mobili urbani, diciamo, con gli scalini. Poi, guardando un po' quella statua, ci siamo resi conto che era una statua costruita in regime fascista nel 24 o nel 25, non mi ricordo, con nella colonna di base il fascio, cioè quindi non si tratta qua di un'allusione oppure di uno stile architettonico che può far pensare, no, è proprio un simbolo fascista, no? Quindi abbiamo chiesto, ci siamo ritrovati là a dire non è possibile leggere tutti questi testi nei quali, tutti si dicono, autodefiniscono noi antifascisti sotto questa statua così senza fare niente. Quindi abbiamo proposto di coprire questa statua o almeno di coprire il fascio, ma non è stato possibile fare niente, neanche coprire il simbolo, cioè il fascio. E lì secondo me bisogna farsi qualche domanda, com'è possibile? Com'è possibile che in un festival nel quale c'è e non è contro il festival, io dico proprio la situazione generale che ritroviamo in tutte le situazioni culturali, no? L'editorial di un festival si posiziona politicamente in una città, ora non so chi c'è al comune, ma di sinistra, PD, qualcosa così.
Molto vicini, insomma, al festival.
Ok, infatti, e lì non si può coprire un fascio, e là per me ci sono un sacco di problemi, poi non abbiamo avuto il tempo, con i tempi di un festival non hai il tempo di magari metterti al tavolo, discutere, pensarci un po' su, eccetera, no? Però come si può posizionare, poi dicevi anche quando si è creato il festival era difficile fare la differenza tra le proposizioni artistiche e le manifestazioni in piazza. Sono passati qualche anno, è passato qualche anno ed ecco cosa siamo arrivati. Il percorso di istituzionalizzazione è un percorso anche spesso di censura, ma non della proposizione artistica in sé di solito, più dell'impatto politico reale che può avere quando è veramente dissidenza, quando propone davvero di spostare qualcosa, dire anche una statua, e non si trattava di sabotarla, non si trattava di sabotaggio, anche se lo meriterebbe di essere, no?
In Brazil, I don't know. I think we have to think this word censura or censorship. It's not like if someone would arrive and say you cannot do that, but at the same time, what I feel is that what the government has done from the past 4 years is like suffocating any possibility that the artist can have to live. So at the very beginning, he always understood that artists in Brazil are his enemy. So he made sure he would cut all the meanings that we need to make our work. So that's how I see when it comes to Brazil. I mean, he won't say you cannot do that because it's about this, but then you will never find the means to do that. And this has been going on. We had this big structure for cinema in Brazil, and this all destroyed. Now we are going to get back, but it has been all destroyed for the last 4 years. Apart from that, what I feel is this that has been done in art. It's also being done in other parts. So there is no incentive for you, for instance, to work in Amazonia. There is no safety net. So it's not this censorship as we imagine, but is strengthening an imaginary that artists are no good to society, that they don't work, they spend public money with nothing that's important, that women should we actually had this sentence like wear pink and men blue. Is that basic in Brazil at that moment? That women should be at home, very gentle and beautiful. Some bullshit like that. That not one indigenous land will be demarcated in his government. That it's okay to kill the people who are working in Amazonia. That nothing will happen to you. So this is the kind of messages that are being taken all the time, and that's what I feel the most. I mean, when I go, I mean, I'm the least of the targets, but it's also about making yourself a safety space, a safety structure, a safety network. You don't go if you don't have that, especially being a woman. But that's it. But I don't. I did the performance there many times. I did the performance in Altamira, and I did the other performance that I did that was about the guerrilla in dictatorship. We made a big trip presenting it in the region that we worked, and it was basically that we just had to take care and like say we are presenting here, and now we are coming out from here to this city, and someone had to know, because if we didn't arrive, then they would know how to deal with it. So it's strong, of course, because we are doing a work, we are doing theater, and at the same time we feel threatened. But I don't know, comparing to what people are actually suffering and actually being killed, no, it's we can deal with it.
Thank you, Lucrezia. It's true that when I'm hearing about censorship, somehow I feel that this is a question which regards my country. It's true, but I'm happy, Igor, that you had a totally different experience. Well, when we are speaking about censorship in Poland, I believe that it's important to remember that there are many different layers of how censorship can work. And maybe the easiest one to see, to understand, is like it's a direct censorship when someone is attacked by the power, by the government, and we had this kind of cases in Poland in last years. There were quite a lot of attacks against Oliver Flich and other artists. There were also attacks against like public theater institutions, directors, etc., etc. But I believe that this kind of censorship is somehow the easiest one to fight against, because when it's clear, then you can resist, then you can organize yourself, then you can organize people who are supporting you. And it's also happened many times in Poland. But the more problematic kind of censorship is economical one, because it's not so clear, it's a bit hidden, because then you never know how the public fundings are working, who is supported, why someone is supported, why someone is not supported, why this institution can go onward and why that one no. we have, and we know about it, we have in Poland this kind of blacklist with artists who are not supported and with institutions which are not supported. And when it's happened for 1 year, for 2 years, you still can survive with other kinds of alliances. But when it is longer, it's getting more and more difficult. And then you feel pressure, a lot of pressure. So then starts the third kind of censorship, which is, from my perspective, the most problematic one, which is auto-censorship. And I believe that we feel it a lot in Poland right now, because then at the end, we are all part of the system of this institutionalization that you, Roberta, said. I think that this is also a very important perspective, because censorship is very much connected, from my perspective, with how we are dealing with public fundings. And sometimes we don't remember that public funds, that those money are our money. So if I'm getting the money from the ministry, it doesn't matter that I have to please the ministry, because we are sharing. They are only administrators of the money that we are producing, no? And sometimes when we are like making these questions that you brought, we are thinking, oh, what will be the reaction of him or his or this partner, that partner? And then it's like, even if this kind of hidden, not so evident cases, the auto-censorship is coming. I think that here we have to be really clever, and we have to bring a lot of attention to this kind of very small situation, because I believe that auto-censorship is much more difficult to fight against and to resist than the cases of a very clear censorship. So this is my perspective after many, many years of working and living in Poland. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so if you want to add something, please do it, and then I would ask the public if there are some questions. Allora, ci sono delle domande, insomma, dopo il passaggio delle moto, ci sono delle domande per gli artisti, le artiste, oppure anche da condividere con il pubblico.
Thank you to everyone. Sorry. But no, it's making a strange sound. Okay. Hello. Thanks a lot for this very interesting talk, and I'm very, very thankful for all what you said. I didn't see your show. I saw only Igor and Gabriela, and actually it was more a question for Igor, because I speak slowly and I'm French with a bad accent, so maybe it's easier to understand. Yeah. But no, it's more like, because the talk is also strategies of resistance, and I understood in what you did and what you do, Gabriela, is really to open a space for not only resisting narrative, but things that let us give us tools to resist together, in order to, because we pay attention to suppressed voices, and we reinforced ourselves to be able to construct other narratives to the present that we are forced to accept. And I was always questioning yesterday, seeing your performance, and I really appreciate your gesture and your involvement for Belarusian people. But I was really wondering why we don't have also their voices. Because at the end, I had the impression that it was also what was really shown was police, in the fact that I see the suppression of these people, but it's as if they were stuck in history and time, and all what is still going on for them. I don't speak that only about if fights are continuing, but also of where are these bodies, where are these stories that you come full with. And I was really with a big desire to have a movement, not a movement on the performing aspect, but like, what are we continuing with you? Not only giving money, but what are the stories that we want to support and let hear? You understand?
Yeah.
So it was, why did you make the choice of not that? Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining. And for a question, it looks like I have no answer, because for me, I have the same question. Sometimes I feel that all our common experience, it's nothing for whole protesting movement, something like that. And maybe it's good that we have this question, and sometimes someday we will have answer, but I haven't, unfortunately. Yeah. Thank you so much for all. Thank you. I hope I answer to your question. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Oh no!
Si può in italiano, però.
Certo.
Sì, grazie mille. Buonasera, io partecipo al workshop di Camille, grazie. E niente, io volevo chiedere, ho ascoltato una lezione di musica di Radio 3 meravigliosa durante il lockdown, che si chiama La musica e il regime. E c'è un episodio di Sostakovich nella quarta sinfonia, braccato da Stalin, che lo chiama naturalmente mezzo sangue perché è ebreo e di sinistra, che non so cosa voglia dire, là, e con gli occhiali, intellettualoide, è praticamente messo a morte. E niente, sta scrivendo la quarta sinfonia, se non mi sbaglio. E alla fine, credo agli archi, dopo aver dato un contentino al potere che era sul banco degli imputati, erano là a vedere la prima, e c'è un battito cardiaco solo alla fine, agli archi, credo, soffuso, potentissimo, io non lo conoscevo. E volevo chiedere se anche nella vostra opera, che non ho ancora visto e voglio vedere, e c'è qualcosa di nascosto, che se non potete dire, non dite, di veramente resistente, nel senso che non potevate dire neanche qua. E se c'è un'estetica, un'arte di rivolta, di resistenza, al di là del percorso concettuale, delle cose che si fanno per gli altri, per chi è in difficoltà o per la propria situazione. Grazie, scusate l'effetto Larsen.
You want me to say it in English or it's clear? Yes, if there is really beyond the explicit resistance, if there is something in your work, something more, something deeper, like really something almost vital that is against. I mean, if there is not only the explicit level, but also really something something deeper that almost we cannot perceive.
My work or the other
Yes.
work? Everybody work.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I got it, but well, I can only hope there is. I mean, for me, it's there, but I don't know. I actually, for me, it's all together. You know, I don't understand the work, just to be concrete, Altamira as a resistance work, and somewhere deep hidden there is something that is true and really that maybe that's not what you said, and but for me it's all together. it's how I think Ian said. I mean, and maybe we can share this feeling. I mean, we are living a very urgent moment, so I don't see how in such difficult conditions and situations we can go to stage to do something that doesn't have this deep connection. And yeah, for me it's there, and I think you can see it, or maybe some of them can see, but I really don't think I got the question.
Yeah, it was not an easy question, I think we could say.
Yeah.
It's like there is something that it's not fully explainable. If resistance is not just something explicit, but something that we maybe cannot really fully explain, but it's something almost physical and of inner thoughts, you know, that maybe we can grasp somehow beyond the words.
Okay, now it's better. So yes. No, but yes, because I mean that's what I truly believe, because I don't think that resistance is something that we can understand. I mean, if we say this and that, then we are resisting. And I was just talking about this. I mean, I think we are very much used to think that we can solve things and comprehend things with our conscience. And we usually say that, like we say about giving conscience or raising awareness. Raising awareness is really like in the moment. And I don't think, it's not the way I work or I believe, you know. I think there is a whole other level of what we might call comprehension. And what we are doing here, it's like I'm saying words in another language that's not my language and it's not your language, and we are trying to communicate. But I really believe that when we are in a theater space, it's not this that we are doing. We can do this, but really we are working here, you know? You don't realize, but something here is happening. You see my feet? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So for me, it's this. I mean, when there is in the performance that the technologies are to sing, to dance, to dream, and language, I really do believe in that. You know, like opening the dreams. I think these are the place, and I think that's because I think together with the people in Altamira and in Amazonia and the shamans and the people who are really working in that space. Like dreams are really the fight field. And I think art has this possibility as well, to work in this field, to open dreams, to make us dream far away. So yeah, yes.
Ci sono altre domande?
Make the noise.
That's why you need to go behind the microphone. Yeah.
Sorry, it's not very clear, and I wonder because it has been mentioned the imagination, the reality, the impact of imagination upon reality, for example, and I always wonder within the artistic milieu, which I appreciate very much, and I'm sincerely and sincere in this, why artist or the artistic milieu has such a higher ethical standard than the others. So where where these needs comes from. These needs to have much higher ethical standard than other fields, and the necessity also to declare or to wish an impact on reality. If you can a little bit reflect on this, that would be great for me.
I have an answer to that.
Go.
We've been working in the fine art school in Geneva with people who use art outside of the milieu, right? Who use creativity outside of the artistic milieu, and making these people meet students in the art school. And so we met a young organist who plays classical organ really in churches. And she said that because she is playing organs in churches, although she's not a believer, she had this specific relationship with listening, because she was always obliged to listen how the sound that she created with these huge machines that are made in such a complex way since really, I think it's the 13th century that the first organs were really built, that she was therefore so aware of the world that was outside of the building with these thick walls where you could still hear the world outside, that's actually because she was listening that she became very aware of the ecology in a broader sense and started to use music in Extinction Rebellion manifestations, because she really had this sense of, okay, my awareness of the world coming from music makes me be aware of the world as it is, and therefore I cannot stay outside it. So maybe this level comes from there, from the listening to the world.
Ma io non sono molto d'accordo. Cioè, nel senso, non vedo una esigenza etica o politica, non lo so qual è forse il termine, non lo so, cioè molto più elevata nel milieu artistico che al di fuori. E anche cos'è il milieu artistico, questo non lo so, cioè nel senso, se si va a vedere un'opera, se si va nello spazio super mega alternativo, cioè comunque ci sono persone che non dialogano, no? Che sono cose abbastanza diverse, ma quando io penso all'esigenza politica e alla resistenza, sinceramente, personalmente non penso in primo luogo agli artisti, penso in primo luogo a militanti. Poi ovviamente si può militare nell'arte, c'è militanza, eccetera, però a volte mi faccio delle domande quando appunto si essenzializza un po' l'arte e si ci mette così tanto potere politico, quando la trasformazione è magari più in piazza che trasformazione sociale collettiva, perché quindi si resiste tutti e tutte insieme. Voilà.
Indeed, if I can add to that, indeed, I guess the difference is maybe that artists show this level, but it doesn't mean that indeed it would be preposterous to think that it's only the artists who are sensitive or have a high level or a high standard. It's just that the artistical work is the expression of this high level, but it doesn't indeed. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist elsewhere.
Да, я, пожалуй, поддержу мнение о том, что каждый человек артист. Ну, просто вот я сейчас вспомнил на примере сопротивления в Минске. Это был настоящий взрыв артистической деятельности не артистов, потому что главные знаковые муралы, граффити, какие-то протестные видео, плакаты, это все делали не артисты. Вот как раз-таки, в том числе и я, наоборот, меня ситуация сковала, и мне очень страшно было говорить что-то артистическим своим языком. Я наслаждался какой взрыв от просто, от людей вот такого артистического выражения был.
I would agree with the statement that everyone, all people are artists. For example, during the times of resistance in Minsk, there was a true explosion of artistic actions, but not of artists themselves, because murales, graffitis, and any kind of videos of the protest were not made by artists themselves. I, for example, was in a different situation because it was hard for me to talk with my artistic language of what was happening. On the other hand, I truly felt this explosion of people who did art. No?
Just to add, I don't know if add, but I think I'm with what just said. I think there is a tendency to think like artists or militants or politicians or ta-ta-ta or ta-ta-ta or workers or da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But I don't know, for me, I also think that everyone can artistically express, we just do it for living, but and that's what I think it's the beauty of it. I mean, that's where I think that there is this possibility of I don't know if we are so ethics or so nice. I think there is everything. There is every kind of but one of the most beautiful people that I know, they're artists. And one of the most beautiful people that I know, they are fisher woman. And one of the most beautiful people that I know, I don't know, but what I think it's interests me, it's how we can approach artistically. And artists have the privilege of doing it for living. And if they take it seriously and with joy, I think they can accomplish and become like do some I don't know, whatever good. The words are not good enough, but I think that what interests me is how we can create spaces that more people can artistically approach of the experience of being here and artistically approach of being militant. I mean, one of the most beautiful protests that happened in Brazil last year was when the indigenous movement took the capital of Brazil, and they stayed camped for months. And it was the most beautiful manifestations and protests, while sometimes the militant people are doing like the protest, as we know, going the streets with with cards and everything. And well, it's important, but what they were doing was they were making an eventment. They were making something aesthetic, so with beauty and violence and everything was there. They were doing spiritual rituals. They were preparing the place. They were calling the entities. They were doing something in many layers and in many dimensions and in another relation with space time. So I think that's the potent of things, yes. I was talking with a friend today about this thing about ring chanting things, ring chanting the word, ring chanting daily life, ring chanting our theater, ring chanting our protest, ring chanting things. And this is in our word, it can be with this what I'm calling artistic approach. it can be something else in other words. But that's what interesting me more than know that if artists are this and these are that, but how we can mix this.
Ok, direi se c'è un'ultima domanda, perché ci siamo con i tempi, insomma, altrimenti... Bene. Vi ringrazio tantissimo per essere stati qua, è stato penso una conversazione molto interessante e ci vediamo agli spettacoli a Santarcangelo. Thank you very much. Thank you.